Hello guys, it's Ben here from Next Gen Base, and Andy has done our review for Rise of the Ronin. That is on the channel now. Go check it out. It's quite an epic one. It goes into quite a lot of detail. But this is the point at which we take a quick look at the different graphical options and analyse the frame rates and take a quick look at the picture quality as well. So here we go. Rise of the Ronin offers 5 different picture modes. So it's quite there's quite a few ways of playing depending on how you'd want to do it. And the first, as we tend to do, is we'll look at the performance mode first. So this is the performance mode here. You can see basically it's pretty much a flat line in terms of the frame rate, but there are a few little dips here and there to the upper 50s. I think the lowest that I saw in some of this footage was about 56. So if you have a display that's capable of VRR, you won't notice anything in terms of those little tiny dips. But on the whole, this performs pretty well. I mean the combat stays locked for the most part on the footage that Andy sent across. So yeah, I mean it looks pretty solid from that perspective. I mean I tend to play on performance mode anyway. I prefer a smoother frame rate to graphical issues, or graphical options rather. But yeah, you can definitely see here the 60 frames a second is more or less locked even when you're in combat, so that's pretty handy for Rise of the Ronin. And then next up we have the quality mode. Now the quality mode, you can turn off the frame limiter that is there. This is with the frame limiter on, so basically it should lock it to like a solid 30 frames a second, but you can see there that there's quite a bit of inconsistent frame pacing, and what that can do to a game is sometimes give you a bit of a jittery experience depending on how it's been implemented by the developers. So yeah, occasionally there'll be dips to the frame time, which actually increases the frame rate according to the graph. But then there'll also be spikes in frame time, which will then reduce the frame rate. What it means is that it does even out to 30 frames a second when you're playing in the quality mode with the limiter on. But yeah, what it can also mean is like I say, you may get the odd sort of jitter here and there, or it might feel a little bit juddery when you're playing. But again, the actual graphics of the game look really sharp. They look really nice. And it's something that we tend to see quite a bit with quite a few games where the frame pacing just feels a bit off, and we're not entirely sure why. But overall, like I say, the frame rate is smooth. Well, it's a 30 frames a second, but it might feel a little bit juddery at times. And again, at the start of the video, you did see like a bit of a spike in the frame rate. I think this is due to some elements on screen refreshing faster than others, but that's quite a rare occurrence, and usually the 30 frames a second limiter does lock it to 30. Next up we have the quality mode with the limiter off. So obviously the PS5 has a little bit of headroom when you're playing it at 30 frames a second, so this kind of turns off that limit and allows you to use a lot more of the power of the PS5. And you can see when you pan sort of to an area where there's quite a lot of stuff going on, it dips to about 45, 44 frames a second. But then when you kind of look at an area that's not got quite as much going on, it obviously spikes up a little bit. So it's I don't know, it's difficult to recommend a quality mode with the limiter turned off a lot of the time, because you get quite an inconsistent frame rate. Now, the PS5's implementation of VRR is pretty good, but it tends to only really kick in when you get over 48 frames a second. So you don't have the what they call on the Xbox, I think it's the low frame rate compensation, which kind of goes, it takes the applicable frame rate that you can have VRR on, and it moves it quite a bit. So yeah, unless you have a TV with VRR and you're okay with dips when you get below that 48 mark, it may look a little bit prettier, but it's whether you can really justify that, and whether you can enjoy that. I mean, personally, I would still play this in performance mode while looking at this. But yeah, it does look really nice, especially when you get up close and personal with the combat. And of course, as is the way a lot of the time now, we have a ray tracing mode. This is the RT mode with the limiter on. So again, you see it's locked to 30 frames, but we still have that inconsistent frame pacing. So again, it may feel a little bit juddery if you turn the ray tracing on and stick that limiter on. I don't really know what is being ray traced here. I don't think there was too much in the way of detail given. In terms of what's there, you just saw there a bit of a spike in the frame rate. I think again that's where some of the UI elements are refreshing quicker, and it's just being picked up by the program that we use as a higher frame rate. But yeah, on the whole, this looks to be pretty smooth at 30 again, but with those frame pacing errors, which is just again it can be a bit of a shame if it impacts your enjoyment of the game. But you know, again, we do have the opportunity here to turn off the frame limiter, which we'll see in just a second. But I mean, again, there's no like horrendous dips. I mean, Andy sent me a good bit of footage for this, and there didn't seem to be anything that dropped too drastically. Next up, we've got the RT mode with the limiter off. Now, this is a bit of a quieter area, so we're not seeing any. We're not seeing any combat here, but you can see that the potential is there, even with the ray tracing, to hit 60 frames a second. Now, looking at that bit there, you can see it doesn't appear to be ray traced reflections, because when you pan the camera, the screen space reflections come in. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what is actually being ray traced here. It could be some of the lighting. It's definitely not all of the reflections, if that is the case. So yeah, I mean, again, the reason that the frame rate dipped there is because that bit on the screen came up, so the image was static, so it's not necessarily a frame rate dip in the game, it's just how the program that we use analyses the footage. So there we go. But that's the RT mode with the limiter off. Again, looks very nice. So next, we just have a quick comparison here between the different modes. So here we have the performance mode, and this is just to give you an idea of the graphical fidelity on each one. Next up is the quality mode, and finally we'll have a look at the RT mode. So if you want to pause it and go and have a look at the differences between them, I will zoom. Well, the images have been zoomed in so you can get a bit of an idea, but yeah, on the whole, I think it looks pretty good regardless of which mode you decide to play it in. And there is probably a little bit more in terms of the subtleties in the lighting when you use the RT mode, so that's one thing to consider when you're playing Rise of the Ronin. So that's going to do it for the kind of analysis for now. What we're going to do is just leave you with some of the raw footage so you can get an idea of how it looked without the graphs on, and yeah, you can check it out for yourself and see whether you'd want to be playing the game. And that's going to do us. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please do the usual thing. Drop us a like, leave us a comment down below. You know, hopefully it's given you a bit of an insight into the modes in Rise of the Ronin and how they come about, and you know which is the best one for you to play. Like I said, I think if you have a TV that's got VRR capability, you may consider using the quality mode or the RT mode with the limiter off, but I think for a more consistent and more smooth gameplay experience, personally, I'd turn on the performance mode for this, because it does seem to be pretty much locked to 60, apart from, I say, those odd dips down to about 58 or 56 or so. But yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.